Hey team. All right, let's get started for today. So, your only homework tonight is log number 3. You don't have any extra pages to read. So, if you are behind on the reading, this is a really good opportunity for you to do that. But log number 3 is all you have to worry about. And I want to make sure to remind you you should be writing at least 10 sentences. If you're not writing that much, if you're only handing in 2 or 3, then you probably need to pick a different prompt because that prompt may not fit your book or what you have to say. Or you need to ask for help in stretching that because you guys are in 10th grade. You know how to write more than that. So ask for help if you need it, or pick a different prompt that allows you to write more, that you have more thoughts about. Okay. So today we're going to read an interview with an author named James Baldwin. Excuse my typo here. And so we'll talk a little bit about who he is. We'll talk a little bit about why we're reading this interview. And then I'll do a little bit on the video just to kind of get us started. All right. So, the thing I want to remind you of is that we are going to use this article tomorrow. This is your top priority. You can always come back and do the log later. This article is your top priority. Okay. So, you may know who James Baldwin is. You may not. In case you don't know, he was active mostly in the 1960s. He was an African-American novelist and activist. He did so much work for LGBTQ rights and anti-racism. His main characters of his books were almost always LGBTQ Black males, which was like unheard of at the time. And he himself was gay. He didn't talk about it very much. As you can see here from the PowerPoint, he really didn't talk about kind of his own experience with that. So the interview that we're going to read today is actually one of the only places where he really talks in depth about his experience as an openly gay Black man in America from between the 1950s to the 1980s, so covering most of his adult life. Okay, so we're going to go into our article. When you get into your iLearn, you're looking for 2.9, the Baldwin interview. Okay, and this was conducted by a man named Richard Goldstein. So I'm not going to read who is talking. I'm just going to read what they said, just so you know. Okay. So we're going to do a little bit together. We'll do the first question or so, maybe the first 2. And then we will go on our own from there. Okay, so sorry, I had to shift some stuff there. Right, so let's go ahead and get started. Do you feel like a stranger in gay America? Well, first of all, I feel like a stranger in America from almost every conceivable angle, except, oddly enough, as a Black person. The word gay has always rubbed me the wrong way. I never understood exactly what was meant by it. I don't want to sound distant or patronizing because I don't really feel that. I simply feel that it's a world that has very little to do with me, with where I did my growing up. I was never at home in it. Even in my early years in the Village, a neighborhood that has historically been home to members of the LGBTQ community. What I saw of that world absolutely frightened me, bewildered me. I didn't understand the necessity of all the role playing. And in a way, I still don't. You never thought of yourself as being gay? No, I didn't have a word for it. The only one I had was homosexual, and that didn't quite cover what it was that I was beginning to feel. Even when I began to realize things about myself, began to suspect who I was and what I was likely to become, it was still very personal, absolutely personal. It was really a matter between me and God. I would have to live the life that He made me to live. I told Him quite a long, long time ago that there would be 2 of us at the mercy seat. He would not be asking all the questions. When did you first begin to think of yourself in those terms? It hit me with great force when I was in the pulpit. I must have been 14. I was still a virgin. I had no idea what you were supposed to do about it. I didn't really understand any of what I felt, except I knew I loved one boy, for example, but it was private. And by the time I left home when I was 17 or 18 and still a virgin, it was like everything else in my life, a problem which I would have to resolve myself. It never occurred to me to join a club. I must say I felt very, very much alone. I was alone on so many levels, and this was just one more aspect of it. Okay, so let's pause here to do our first question. So, how does what Baldwin is saying in these two paragraphs connect to Paul or his experience at school? Well, Baldwin is saying that he feels like he never really fit in with the LGBTQ community, right? He didn't feel at home there. And that's kind of the opposite of what happened to Paul. So I'm going to put that. So I'm going to put Baldwin's experience is kind of the opposite of Paul's. And I'm going to go into more detail. So Baldwin, never really felt like he fit in, but Paul is accepted by everyone, and he feels at home. Okay. So you're going to continue from here on your own. But if you have any questions, as usual, you can let me know.